All right, everybody. Thank you for those of you tuning in live right now. And hopefully, if you don't catch this live, we're going to have this saved. Obviously, it'll be on our Facebook page. And we do put it on our YouTube channel as well. If you just go ahead and do a search for dotFIT. But I'm super excited today to bring to you Donnie Oliver from UFC Gym. Donnie and I go way back. I've got a lot of great questions for Donnie. And really, again, I want to dive into some of the things that helped him get to where he is today, and some of the things that make UFC Gym unique as well. And we'll have some fun as we go through this. But Donnie, thanks so much for being with us. I know out of the garage office, where I know you and I are both super excited as we're both here in Southern California. And, you know, this week again has been the opening of a lot of the different clubs around. So it's like, thank gosh, we're getting closer, right? But Donnie, thanks again. How about just real quick, if you can tell everybody what your current title and role, I know it's multiple, and obviously as we all wear tons of hats, but I know, recently you had also gotten a promotion, but I know you're still doing things that you used to do as well. But how about that, Donnie? Can we start there, please?
Yeah, so the most recent new role at the beginning of this year was to take on Vice President of Global Franchise Operations for UFC Gym. But kind of as you mentioned, right, in these global pandemic times that we've all been kind of navigating through, wearing a lot of hats. So I never really took off the Vice President of Fitness hat for the domestic corporate-owned stores. So yeah. Still doing a bit of that, and then as you know, it's just, hey man, anything that I can take something off of somebody else's plate, let's go ahead and do it.
Yep. No, and I think that's the name of the game, right? You're like, hey, if the trash needs to be taken out, I take out the trash. You know what I mean? If the locker room needs to be cleaned, it's what we do, right? Yep. And, again, that's what makes yourself and a bunch of great people that you and I both know in the industry, I think so great, because it's like we'd never ask somebody to do something, that we wouldn't do as well. But Donnie, let's, if we can, let's go back a little bit, because getting to know you over the years too, and I've gotten to hear tidbits over time about some of the things on where you went to school, why you went to school, originally what you were studying, kind of to the evolution of now. But if we can go back, can you tell us, where are you from? I know you went to school and I know you studied some certain things, and especially after you told me, now I just can't get it out of my head, because you got the most, I'm going to give you a quick preview, the most perfect voice, and your vocabulary is perfect for it as well. So it all works out really well. But please, where'd you go to school? What'd you study? Let's start there.
Yeah. So grew up in the military. Parents were both in the Air Force. So grew up moving around everywhere, but family is originally from Philly. So you got your Brian Dawkins right there. But ended up after I graduated high school, I actually finished up high school out here in Southern California, out in the high desert, and at Edwards Air Force Base, which is a test center out there. Ended up going back to the East Coast, went to Penn State. So your boy Saquon Barkley. Went to Penn State. And as you had mentioned, kind of had the realization early on I wasn't going to play in the NFL. So I figured I just wanted to be on ESPN and be a Sports Center anchor. So I went to school for broadcast journalism. Kind of at the time, right back then, there wasn't a sports broadcast journalism like specific degree. And, in communications, you got to have a minor to pair up with that. And so I minored in kinesiology, and, turned out that ended up being the thing that I went with. Yeah. So I graduated from Penn State, got a job in Tucson, Arizona with K-Gun Channel 9 News out there, working in the news department for K-Gun. Decided that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so that led to just bouncing around a little bit, right? Bartended as a lot of us do in our younger years, right? So bartended a little bit, did some nightclub security, found my way out to Southern California through a family friend's business, ended up in pension administration, which not a lot of fun, right? Vesting calculations and investments, right? But it kind of turned me on to the investments thing. That's not what I wanted to do long term. And then, ended up one day in a gym, recognized somebody from another gym, got to talking, had never really realized that, you go to the gym, you work out, you leave. And the girl that was at the front desk in West LA And I had just moved to Brentwood from Woodland Hills in Southern California. And so there was the girl that was at the front desk in West LA, I recognized from the front desk in Encino. And those, obviously they're not close to each other. So I asked her, I was like, Ani, like, what are you doing? What are you doing over here? Like, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. And she's like, oh, I got promoted. I was the assistant operations manager in Encino, now the operations manager here in West LA. And it just kind of this light bulb moment, right? You never think about there's a career path and there's management. And there's people that work at the gym. You just kind of show up, lift weights, and leave.
Yeah.
So yeah, got to talking with her. Wasn't happy doing what I was doing at the time. They introduced me to the fitness director, Reggie Welch, talked to him. And I think I literally said in my interview, I got to find something to do while I figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, well, that sounds great. We'll hire you. And then, yeah, fast forward almost 20 years now and, fell in love with the industry.
That is awesome. Now, before we keep going down that road, though, what I do want to go back to is if you're thinking about, hang on. Sorry. Oh, hey, you're good.
Look at that. Guest appearance.
Little cameo by Neil coming in. I was just hoping they didn't want the green screen. I was like, oh no, as we're live, they just needed the stool, right? But before we go on any further, and if any of you are familiar, because ironically, as Donnie, of course, huge part of UFC Gym and mixed martial arts. And going back to the radio broadcast journalism, anytime I hear Luke Thomas on Sirius Radio, who's, most times talking about MMA, again, same booming voice. So I challenge any of you that are listening, go listen to both of them with your eyes closed and you're going to go, whoa, wait a minute. I swear that is Donnie, So Donnie, jumping ahead to where you left off though, what organization was that?
That was with Bally Total Fitness. So when I moved out to Arizona, and again, right, it's interesting looking back because you never really think about it, right? You're in high school, you're in college, you've got access to a gym. When I moved out to Arizona, from where I was living to where I was working, like literally like mid distance in between, there was a Bally at the Foothills Mall in Tucson, Arizona. So I got a membership at Bally when I was in Arizona, and I got whatever the membership was, the Premier Ultra Plus or whatever. That gave me access to all the gyms nationwide. So when I moved to California, I just found the Bally that was closest to my house and went there. And then when I moved to Brentwood, I just went to the Bally that was closest to my apartment there. And yeah.
And so Donnie, take us just real quick through the Bally progression though. I assume I know what that can stand for, but you started as a personal trainer. And then where did you progress to within that organization?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the Bally that I got, and we'll get into this later, right? Luck favors the prepared, right? For sure, right? But I look back and the gym that I got hired at was 100% like I look back and it's just kind of this lightning in a bottle, group of coaches that was there. I mean, we were overstaffed, right? It was early in the time of personal training in the big box space, early 2000s. There was no minimums. There was a bunch of trainers on staff that had like one client that they train Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. and that was it, right? And then they had a free gym membership. So, I mean, there was probably, 35, 45 trainers on the staff. And I don't remember all of them, but, there was some trainers on that staff that they're still in the industry doing lots of different big things. That have become inventors of products that we use, or they've gone on and they've opened their own studios. They're sprinkled around the industry, right? So I look back at that, and I was really lucky coming in as somebody who at the time just had a minor in kinesiology, hadn't gotten my NASM certification yet, and I just had a bunch of really good trainers to mimic and ask them to take me through sessions. And what I realized really quickly though was that I was getting busier than a lot of them. Mm-hmm. They're way better at training clients than I was, right? Yeah. And so, it kind of created a really nice, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Look, man, I'm stealing stuff from you, monkey see, monkey do. Tell me the why behind the what on that movement. And when you've got time, I learn from them, pick their brains. And, in exchange, I'll try to teach you what I'm doing that I'm getting clients so easily.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just the structure of big box gyms, and there's goals, and look, quickest way to get recognized to produce. And so, you know, the numbers that I was putting up got recognized pretty quickly. I'm a competitive guy, and we had some other guys on the team that were putting up big numbers. So I was trying to run with the big dogs. And, you know, our district manager, you know, saw that, you know, I was doing good stuff. And again, you know, just lucky, the fitness director, we had a fitness director change. Reggie left to go grand open a new gym that we had just opened, and Juan Hernandez came over, Lauren Rosales came over. They were my fitness director and my operations manager, and I owe a lot of my career to them. They grew me up. And so, you know, they probably pointed out like, hey, you know, how's the club taking off? How's the club growing? Donnie's doing a lot of sales training with the other trainers. So I found myself really quickly, like, I liked training. I tell people this all the time. I liked training clients. There's an immediate, you know, you get intrinsic and extrinsic feedback, and you get the good vibes of seeing people reach their goals. But I had as much fun teaching other trainers how to get better at getting clients, right? It frustrates you when you see really good trainers doing the right work, but they just, for whatever reason, they've got a mental block and they just can't get people to sign up. And then you see good trainers quit, right? You see a good trainer leave and go take a job as, and I'm not knocking baristas, right? But it's not their passion, right? And they leave to go get a job at a coffee shop, or they leave to go get a job at a retail store. And you're like, man, you're really good at this. You're really passionate about it. Yeah, but I just can't tie together a paycheck. So anyway, I got really good, and it got identified, and there was sets of eyes on me that saw I was really good at teaching other trainers how to get busy. And so, I mean, I was probably only training clients 9-10 months. And, you know, I remember the way that we used to do things, right? No heads up, right? It'd be 10:30 at night on the last day of the month, close out. Yeah. And I get a phone call from the district manager, you know, hey, heads up, tomorrow you're the fitness director at the Bally in Redondo Beach, right?
Yeah.
And work with your fitness director and your OM to, you know, get all your clients reassigned. Like, you know, no heads up, right? Because, you know, in that old school thinking mentality, right? If you told somebody they were getting promoted, then they wouldn't help during closeout, right? They're not going to write gross, so they're not going to. So you couldn't tell anybody ahead of time. Yeah. Thankfully, we've evolved, we've matured. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I was a trainer for like 9 months. Got tapped on the shoulder to go, you know, kind of full circle. I live in Redondo Beach now, right? So whatever that was, you know, 17 years ago, got to go run the Bally in Redondo Beach, and it was crazy, right? I went from a gym that had, like I said, 35, 40 trainers, not all full-time, but, you know, a lot of trainers, 3-story gym. You know, they were doing, you know, a couple hundred memberships a month. Man, the gym that I went to, I remember calling Lauren, my old ops manager, when I got there, and I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, you're going to be bored out of your mind. It's this 1-story little gym. Doesn't even have a group fitness room. It had a group fitness floor, right? Just in front of the cardio equipment. Yeah. I think the month before I got there, they did like 26 memberships for the month. Like, you know, I came from a gym that
you're going there for a reason, Donnie.
Yeah. The month before I got there, the gym I was at in West LA had done like 325 memberships. I was like, oh my God, tires came screeching to a halt. Yeah. So yeah, it was cool. Right. And then, yeah, like, you know, fast forward, I went from Redondo Beach to Huntington Beach to Long Beach, back to West LA, became a general manager, was a GM for a bit, then got an opportunity to go back over to strictly the PT side and oversee an area. So I picked up kind of what at the time we called look, man, if you were drawing up your career map, you couldn't call this out any better, right? I got basically what was called like the Beach Cities District. Yeah. Right. I had Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, Torrance, Santa Monica. Like I had all the stuff right by the water, right? Like where else would you want to be the district manager? You know, so yeah, I picked up a DFM role there, and that just kind of grew over the years, right? I got to work with Grant Schweibel, who was the VP of fitness at the time, Scott Howell, who was my immediate upline. He was sort of the regional for Southern California. And so I got to work with the two of them, you know, and Grant's a VP with TRX now, and Scott owns Red Dot Fitness Studio up in NorCal. So again, just the people that I mean, I look back, and the people that I've gotten a chance to be mentored by have all they've all continued to move up, in the industry and they've got huge ecosystems and footprints and coaching trees that flow from them. So yeah, I mean, as Bally went on, I picked up kind of the Southwest, right? I had Phoenix, Tucson, San Diego, Orange County, LA, right up until LA Fitness bought it out, and then through some shakes and moves and some the getting to know people and working with people, went over, was looking for something to do after Bally, didn't want to stay with LA Fitness. I knew Nasario Mejia, who was at the time VP of Fitness at Crunch, and I knew Ryan Junk, that had been he'd been a DM and a VP over at 24. Spent a little bit of time at Bally before he went to UFC Gym. So they found me a home at Crunch for a little bit. I kind of mingled at Crunch in Sunset and West Hollywood for a little bit, and then Ryan Junk called me up, and I talked to Adam Sedlak and Derek Gallup, and they were like, "Hey, you want to come over to UFC Gym?" And absolutely, it was right in my backyard. At that point, I think I was living in El Segundo, and they had opened up the gym in Torrance a couple months before. They'd been open about 5-6 months. And so that was 2012, and worn a lot of hats here since. And so that was kind of the Bally run, right? From early 2000s to when, I guess whatever that was, 2011, when Bally kind of ceased to exist. So I got to see it right at its heyday. I started when it was kind of peaking. And then I was one of the last guys, playing. I was one of the guys, I was the band playing on the deck,
Yeah. No, crazy. And, when you say all that too, Donnie, and I know you know this, but if anybody's watching as well, that more or less works in our industry, and I think this goes for all industries, but for sure ours, it's a small world out there. I mean, everybody's interconnected, and, never burn bridges, and you just never know when, opportunity comes knocking. And not saying that everybody fits everywhere, but that's okay. You try to find the right fit where you can. So that's awesome. So where did you wound up in Torrance first though, right?
Yeah. So when I came over
for UFC Gym.
Yeah. When I came over to UFC Gym, I started the Torrance Gym. And again, they had been open 5-6 months. And again, the company was really new at that point, right? The company had only been around just under 2 years.
Okay.
So we opened up the first UFC Gym in Concord in 2010. And the second gym was in Rosemead, third gym in Corona. So in like the first 2.5 years, we opened up 4 gyms. And then I think Honolulu was 5th and Long Island was 6th. Those could be interchangeable. I think Honolulu was 5th, Long Island was 6th. So that all happened like in the first couple of years. But I take a lot of pride, and this is one where I was hesitant. I think I knew it. I'm never gonna stand up on a stage and say that, hey, I'm this super humble humility, right? Like, if I did something, I'm gonna talk about it. But like, so I knew contextually, like, Torrance was doing well. I knew that Torrance was doing some things that none of the other clubs had done. But, I waited until I'd heard it echoed a couple of times. And the previous VP of Fitness, Steve Stonehouse, had said this. Derek Gallup had said this. And then I heard Adam Sedlak, the president, I heard him mention it in a couple of different settings and scenarios. So like, I feel like it's not bragging now to repeat it.
Yeah.
But what we did at Torrance, when I got to Torrance, the team that I inherited and the team that we were able to grow there, myself and Wendell Paulding was the GM at the time. What we were able to do, the number of clients we were able to start signing up, the number of sessions that we were servicing each month. And I think it's always critical to frame it in those terms. I think, like you said, us in the industry, we understand that, hey, the way we're going to measure success is going to be on the revenue side of things, right? And I always talk with coaches about, like, a client might come in and their goal is going to be to lose weight or to gain weight. So it's going to be this number on a scale. But you, as the fitness professional, that the nuance of the numbers behind that, it's going to be calories, it's going to be macros, you're going to be looking at all that. You're both looking at the same things. You're managing a thing that gets to the result. So I think the part as an industry where we can pat ourselves on the back is, how many lives are we changing? How many lives are we impacting? It's easy customer facing to talk about. An easy way to measure that is, how many clients do you have and how many sessions are they servicing, right? That's the more, I think, commercially palatable piece to talk about. I know that revenue numbers can turn people off, but we were setting company records in revenue by leaps and bounds. Yeah. And the numbers we were doing in revenue in PT that were in lockstep with the numbers that we were doing in monthly membership dues, which is how many members do you have and are they staying? Are they not canceling, right? Those are all measurements of how good a job are you doing. And we were signing up, we were close to 10,000 members, doing over 3,000 training sessions a month. I mean, those are big numbers. And when Torrance did that, it lit a fire under the growth of the company. Nice. Like it was, the company was growing. We were opening up gyms, but what we were able to, again, I'll use the term lightning in a bottle. What we were able to capture from a talent standpoint, from a mindset standpoint, a work ethic standpoint, it was critical for the company because it became a launch point that really accelerated the growth of UFC Gym. And I'm prideful, right? Yeah. And I think in a good way, right? I take a lot of pride in being a part of that because now we're this company that, we've got development deals for close to 1,000 gyms internationally. We're operating in 38 countries. We've got over 100 gyms, franchise and corporate owned domestically. And, I got to be a part of that very early on.
Yeah. Now, hey, Donnie, there's a few things in there that I already have my list of questions and you've tagged a few of them, but I want to go back to a few things. Just in case that we have people that might be watching that have never visited a UFC gym, they don't know what it is. Can you just give us a brief overview of, what makes UFC Gym unique, or as even the tagline, train different?
Different. Man, it's
and by the way, is it a fight gym? Just kidding.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's our inside joke, right? Because it's like we spend more time overcoming. You're not going to get punched in the face, we promise.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, we'll definitely spend some time on that, right? Because again, you can go. It's more than an octagon. I think that's a good place to start, right? The shingle that hangs on the door, like you said, it's certainly got its draws, but it's like when you ask, like, what is UFC Gym for those that have never been in there? I think back to the first time that I set foot in, so there's kind of two things. I went to the grand opening of the second club in Rosemead. And I remember when I walked in that I was floored. I was like, wow, like this is really something. Right. And then fast forward to club number 4, I went into the Torrance gym probably about 6 weeks after it opened. It was the first time that I went in there. And I was on a tour with Ryan Junk was taking me around, and I'm slack jawed. I literally can think back to what my face must have looked like as he's walking me around. And I was just, and again, you got to think back, right? This isn't 2020. This is 2012, right? There's a 37-yard stretch of turf. Don't ask me why it wasn't 40. It's 37-yard stretch of turf. There's a 37-yard stretch of turf. There's an octagon. There's a bag area, right? A Muay Thai. There's a jiu-jitsu area, giant group fitness room. Just tires, right? Tires for flipping and dragging and sleds for an athlete's playground. It is really, and not even just being, not for an MMA athlete, right? Just, it was an athlete's playground. Yeah. And I'm just walking around slack jawed. Like, it's just, there was more cardio than at the local biggest 24-hour fitness, right? There was a larger free weight section than the powerhouse gym down the street, right? There's huge free weight area, huge cardio area, huge traditional group fitness room space with spin bikes and step aerobics and all that. And then if you think about it, if you stripped everything else out, right? If you took out the octagon, you took out the jiu-jitsu mats, you took out the Muay Thai bags, it still would have been a bigger gym than the local Golds or 24-hour fitness or powerhouse gym. It's a massive gym. It's a 45,000 square foot gym. But it's like on top of all that stuff that's at your gym that you're going to, your LA Fitness or whatever, there's turf and bags and grappling mats and octagons and just, man, like, and now, like, you see a lot of people mimicking it, right? Like, you walk into an LA Fitness right now and there's heavy bag, you walk into a 24-hour fitness and there's a stretch of turf, even though sometimes it's like a, 3 yard by 3 yard stretch of turf, which is not stretch of turf, a square of turf, right? So aesthetically, a lot of people have copied it. But, there was a sense of pride in that I would go into these other locations, right? What is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? I go into all these other facilities that were mimicking the structure of what we were doing, but in no way could they capture the culture and the essence of what we were doing, right? And it's not easy. I mean, you want to talk about threading a needle, right? Because now you've got the challenge, as you pointed out. You've got the UFC logo, and you've got that partnership that you need to be a responsible caretaker for, right? There's got to be an authenticity to what you do. So it can't be, again, I'm not bashing, I'm just framing. It can't be Billy Blank's Tybo going on, right? With the UFC logo, right? It's got to be more authentic than that. You've got to have really good coaches that are skilled in Muay Thai, in kickboxing, in jiu-jitsu, right? Not all good fighters, and we know this from any sport, right? But not all good football players are good coaches. Not all good basketball players are good coaches. And that's certainly, MMA is no different, right? Not all Muay Thai artists and not all kickboxers are great coaches, and not all wrestlers and not all jiu-jitsu practitioners are great coaches. So we have to have great coaches. You've got to be authentic, but fight gyms go out of business all the time, and we're not a fight gym. Fight gyms close all the time. Why? Because the kid that wants to join a fight gym, the guy that wants to get punched in the face, the guy that wants to be a professional fighter is typically, I'm generalizing, is typically much younger, doesn't have a ton of discretionary income. Not only do they not have discretionary income, they typically don't have enough income to meet their normal needs, let alone an expensive gym membership. And that's why a lot of fighters are mopping the floor at their local gym, to pull their weight, and that's how they stay at the gym. We couldn't do that. So it's this very narrow needle to thread of, we're going to be authentic. We're going to have great Muay Thai coaches, kickboxing coaches, legitimate, vetted, 2nd, 3rd, 4th degree black belts, 5th degree black belts, coral belts in jiu-jitsu. You're going to have that, but it's got to speak to 42-year-old middle management dad, 37-year-old soccer mom. Like, it's got to speak to the person who, I want to lose 15 pounds. I'm just bored of the elliptical machine at LA Fitness. Right. And so and I'll tell you what, man, that's not easy. You've got to have some talented general managers, which we did and we do. You got to have some talented fitness directors and operations managers that can grasp the duality and dichotomy there and execute and onboard and educate their teams, because it's very easy. I was talking to somebody about this past weekend. It was a theme, a mantra, I guess, that came up a lot early back in 2012, 2013. We would talk about and, not or. And it's very easy for immature leaders or low business maturity, entry-level employees to be in an or mentality. You want me to do this, or do you want me to do that? Yeah. And it was, no, it's not or. I need you to do both. It's and. I need you to be authentic to MMA, and I need you to attract general fitness. Yeah. That's not easy. So, again, to your point, what we said earlier, and that it's a small industry, and we leveraged relationships to attract the best talent. Yeah. I mean, I remember, again, when I walked into Torrance, the sales team that had been assembled there, I think every single person, right? The GM, the AGM, and all 6 salespeople were all former general managers. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're walking into a stacked sales pit, right? It's, Aaron Dedeke, Bobby Tesh, Dusty, Aaron, it was Vince, Fernandez, like it was every single guy in that pit. Every one of them was a former general manager. And so you're talking about talent, right? And a lot of our coaches that we hired were former fitness directors from Bally, former fitness directors from 24, former personal training directors at LA Fitness, that the reason they left their salaried, cushy job, right? They had management jobs with other brands. They left to be a part of something.
Yeah.
A part of something that was new, part of something that was exciting. It was shifting the paradigm of what was going on in the industry. I mean, the chance to be at the forefront of something in an industry that has been stagnant, at that point you were looking at it was stagnant.
Yeah.
And we had a chance to be at the front end of something, and we did. And it's been really special. And this has been a fun 8 years so far. I guess this month for me is 8 years.
Nice.
With the company. And we're just at a precipice. And I'll let you get back to the questions, because I think the next thing I'm going to say is what I went through at Bally. We'll end up here, I'm sure. What I went through at Bally with a housing crash, a financial crash, a company filing multiple bankruptcies, trying to navigate through this. Being a part of that has given me a unique perspective for what we're navigating through right now.
Yeah.
As I think we look to, there's going to be some mass consolidation again in the industry, but following that mass consolidation industry is typically a big explosion. So I think the industry's primed for another growth spurt again, which I'm excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So if you guys think about it, UFC Gym was trying to take the combination of, your traditional health club, like Donnie mentioned, whether it's cardio, whether it's group fitness, free weights, selectorized equipment, but then combine it with all the different components that a lot of times the mixed martial artists would use while they're training. But the goal is, and we always joke about this because I actually got to work with Donnie for a little bit with UFC Gym, is overcoming the fear, though, that people think that, again, they're going to fight or they're going to, go in and get punched in the face. And obviously that's the farthest thing from it. It was always meant to imply more, you're going to be able to do the training that the trainers or the fighters do, to look like they do. Because, most of them look phenomenal, but have the fun of it.
Big country, right?
Yeah,
big country. He's
a big thing of what Donnie said, though. I know they've always stressed, and I've been in meetings, is again that, the authenticity. So that way, this isn't a, a 4-hour video course you're going to watch on jujitsu, and now you're going to be teaching. Like he mentioned, you're talking about black belts and brown belts and, of course, coral belts, which, way over my head to even comprehend, but just trying to put it all together under one roof. So really, really unique platform. Hey, Donnie, I do have one of these questions in here, but you mentioned it before, and because I know there's been quite a lineage as well, let's hear some names of some of the people you had in your Torrance team that have gone on to do some great things. And I mean, I just know, between Kat Cho, I know she wasn't from Torrance, but she always gives us mad props as well. And I know she looks up greatly to you, but Alyssa out in Hawaii. But I know there's a lot more. Let me hear some of the names of some of the folks you might have brought in, or maybe you inherited, but now you've watched as they grew into much bigger roles.
Well, I'll tell you what, yeah, man, I go back to, again, like I'll talk about, right, 2012, when we were just setting the world on fire, right? So you've got, probably the first one, and this was, I owe this guy a special debt of gratitude because, sometimes when you're coming in and taking over a team, right, you kind of gotta prove yourself. You gotta have some street cred, right? I didn't have to do that. Like, I came into the Torrance team and there was a handful of guys already on the team that had worked with me before. And one of them that's still there, Antonio Reyes. So he was on the Torrance team there. He's been a team leader for me, been an assistant fitness director for me. He's still there at Torrance. And, again, internally revenue type numbers. Like, look, I'm not ashamed to talk about it. The dude's in the $1 million club. He's written over $1 million in personal training revenue. So translate that, again, if you're on the outside customer facing, translate that into how many clients he's had, how many have been with him. He's got clients that have been with him for 10 plus years, right? So he used to work with me at Bally. And so Antonio, we had Jason Pease. He was another one. He worked with me at Bally. He had gone to Equinox for a bit, opened up 220 Fitness in Santa Monica. And then he came over, joined us and he's now, I want to say he's like a regional sales for Lifetime Fitness up in the NorCal region. You had Matt Bransby was one of our team leaders, and he's actually back. He left, went into education, moved back to the East Coast, and he's actually now with the UFC Gym out there in Philly. He's with one of the UFC gyms back on the East Coast now, another Eagles fan. Shout out to Matt Bransby. You had Andrea Osmus, right? So again, that's with Golds now, right?
Was Andrea a trainer for you then?
Yes. So she was at Torrance when I got there.
I didn't realize that.
Yep. And so, and she came up, and actually when you and I were, hip to hip doing the franchise consulting, she actually did a stint as the fitness director.
I remember that.
At Torrance before she went. I know that she was a GM at Yoga Works, and she was the fitness director at Torrance, then landed the gig that she's got at Golds right now. So again, right, just small community through there. Paul Lee, right? So Paul Lee came on, and he was a youth manager with us.
I can watch him do the practicing with his kicks all day long. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think he's like an 18th Dan Taekwondo black belt, something ridiculous like that. And so he kind of came up, right? Started as coach, becomes a team leader, youth manager, assistant fitness director, goes and opens our San Diego market. And so he's out there with Stride now, right? Yeah. So you had Paul Lee, you had Matt Bransby, you had Jason Pease, you had Andrea, right? And that's all just on the general fitness side, right? You talk about the other guys like on the MMA side, right? We were blessed, right? We had Tony Fricklin was one of our coaches when we started there, right? And I mean, he goes all the way back with Matt Hughes and Militich Training Systems and all those guys, right? So you want to talk about like authenticity, right? And so, he's up, I want to say Utah. I want to say is Utah or Idaho. Tony's out there still training clients out there. And you had Jake Poss, who's one of our great striking coaches, right? Muay Thai, WCK, Lion Fights, Cruiserweight, guy. He helped us grand open our Miami market. So he moved back out to Florida. Him and his wife and kids are out there. And he recently, a few years ago, opened up his own studio, Wolfpack. And so he's doing great things out there. And some of our Muay Thai and kickboxing guys at our gyms in Miami actually train for their fights with Jake at his studio, right? We had, when Krzysztof Szynski was retiring from the UFC, he came on as one of our coaches, became an MMA manager, helped us really grow our MMA program. And now he's over in Dubai, overseeing MMA for the UFC gyms in the entire Middle East, right? So you've got the gyms at Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, like he's overseeing all of that. I mean, yeah, man, you look back at that, and I know, and I'm going to feel bad later because I'll be like, oh, I didn't mention. I mean, the lineage that stems from Torrance, right? That went on, and you mentioned Kat, right? So from San Diego to Northern California to the East Coast to Hawaii, like we kept plucking people out of that Torrance facility and spreading them throughout not just the country, spreading them throughout the world to help grow the UFC Gym brand. And man, that's why I say, like, when you talk about lightning in a bottle, we were talent heavy, ready to export at a moment's notice. If we needed somebody to go somewhere and be a manager, we needed someone to go somewhere and be a leader. We had a factory just producing people.
Well, and Donnie, I think you would agree with what I'm about to say, but there's something in us that got us into fitness in the first place, right? And I think, if you were to poll anybody who's involved with fitness, whether it's group fitness, one-on-one, whatever it is, right? We all love to help people. There's something ingrained in us that we love to help people. And I think you and I got to the same point where we loved helping our clients. But later on, as we started to progress in our own careers, it then became our clients became our team members. And how do we now onboard our new fitness coaches or trainers? And then just like watching a client who maybe loses weight or fits into the pair of jeans and they're ecstatic, we would get that same excitement watching a coach go, hey, I just did like a consultation for the first time and they decided they want to train with me and they invested in me. And like when they hold us accountable for helping them to get there, not going to lie, man, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I did my good deed for the day. So it's something you should be very proud of. And I'm not just saying that, but again, you look back at where UFC Gym is now, and not everybody, sometimes people go different places, but a lot of great people out there. And you know, I've been around them and I've heard them give you the props, and it, you know, I think it's very well deserved, and it's something to be very proud of. So, hey, tell us this. Well, I do have to throw this out there, okay? Obviously, I work for dotFIT.
While you're doing that, I just want to make this clear, right? So I'm going to try to take a drink here.
Go for it.
No, it seems like my ice in here has become one big block. So what's going to happen? It's all going to splash. Water is going to splash out over my face. So while you're talking, I might
Boosh. It's all good. All right, let's see if anything happens here. That would be great. There we go. And of course, I think as my camera hopefully didn't freeze.
Yeah, I could have. If it's not the size of your head, like, what are you even doing, right?
My camera was freezing too. So we went from you holding it to then I was like, oh gosh, please don't tell me I lost you being on live, right? So, hey, Donnie, what I was going to ask you though is, you know, again, obviously I work for dotFIT, and UFC Gym is one of our, you know, great partners. You know, they utilize dotFIT. They do a great job with it. But I want to know, and we are getting a little closer towards time. I figured we'd probably make this, you know, till 1 o'clock, but there's a few other things I did want to ask you. Yeah. But what was it like for you, you know, going to Torrance, you know, brand new organization. They got this dotFIT thing you've never dealt with at Bally's or anywhere else. And, you know, and I know again that you progressed so well with it. You know, you wound up being able to come to Neil's Ranch experience multiple times actually. But how did you feel about that with your knowledge of the industry, and then kind of being introduced to that new component when you got to that organization?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So first, I know that I don't think I was the first, but again, I do take pride in being one of the first people in the batch of people that got to do the Neil's Ranch experience multiple times. I think I was one of the first repeat people. So that can never be taken away. It's an amazing experience for anybody who's listening. If you work for an organization that's partnered with dotFIT, and you have an opportunity to come out to Southern California, to go to Neil's Ranch. I mean, the experience itself is worth it, but I mean, the big takeaway is just you're spending time with people there's a mix, right? There's people that are going to be veterans that are, you know, veterans in the industry that you're going to learn from, but then you're also surrounded by new people in the industry that are just figuring it out, and they're just succeeding and winning on pure adrenaline alone. So it's an amazing experience on that. So again, I think what dotFIT has been able to package, right? The secret sauce, again, as an evolution from previous companies that we were partnered with, and different brands that were out there and product lines that were out there, right? So we had a product line at Bally, NST, right? That we were starting to try to figure that out. And at 24, it was Apex. And so you had Apex, you had NST, you had the big boxes trying to go like, okay, look, we're making people sweat. We're making people sore. We're taking care of, it's almost like, again, you have to mature, right? And again, it's an industry that's maturing. So early on, you're going to do the easy things, and you're not going to really want to tackle the hard things. And again, from a business standpoint, ROI, go after the easy things first, right? And the easy conversations to have and the easy revenue to get after is getting people to train. People know they walk into the gym, there's weights, there's machines, they don't know what they're doing. They've tried it on their own, they're looking for help. So that's the easy revenue to go after. And again, as any company, ROI early, go after that low hanging fruit. As you mature and your revenue starts to plateau, retention starts to plateau, people aren't getting results, step back, bigger picture. Again, there's an accountability piece to it. And again, like you said, coaches get into this because they want to help. By and large, there's something in their DNA. They want to help people. I think it's a combination of things. They like helping or they like teaching, because being a coach, being a trainer, you're a teacher. There's got to be empathy. There's got to be an empatheticness to you, and there's got to be a desire to teach people and help people. That does not mean you've got good organizational skills. So holding people accountable and juggling your client base, coaches need help with that. And again, just because I'm great at the physical aspects of programming and cardio programming and strength programming and periodization doesn't mean rarely ever, there's not a correlation. It doesn't mean that I necessarily know a lot about nutrition. And so a lot of coaches that are very good at bigger, stronger, faster need help on structure, organization. They need help on nutrition. And then we all, like, no matter how dialed your nutrition is, you're going to have gaps. And then what do I fill those gaps with? And I think what dotFIT, and the reason that I think I gravitated to it so quickly was that it was such a no-brainer because it checks all those boxes. The dotFIT company and the dotFIT program and the dotFIT platform provides you a prepackaged space to manage your clients and help give you structure that you otherwise probably don't have naturally on your own. It helps you. It's not, and again, you and I, we tackle this a lot because we probably come in with much more open-minded and an abundance and a growth mindset, whereas some people are going to come in, they're defensive, they're on their heels. They don't want this big box corporate manager telling them that they've got to sell, therma stuff and fat burners and pre-workouts. And I've told people all the time, that's a product. That's certainly there for those that want it, but that's not what the fitness directors, that's not what the coaches, that's not where they're gravitating, right? It's not like, hey, take these fat burners and take these pre-workouts and you'll reach your goals. It's, hey, I'm going to set you up on this platform. It's going to help me manage. It's going to help me manage you as a client. It's going to help me assign you homework. It's going to help me have visibility to what you're eating, to what you're not eating, when you're working out, when you're not working out. So it helps the coach, right? That's what the platform does. And then it helps both the coach who doesn't, again, coach doesn't need to be an expert in nutrition. They need to have resources that allow their clients to get the information that they need, right? Just like, again, there's these correlations, right? I don't have to be great at all aspects of training, right? If I've got a client that's training to lose weight with me and says that like, oh, like I've piqued my interest a little bit in jiu-jitsu, I don't need to teach them jiu-jitsu. I go get somebody who's good at jiu-jitsu. If they want to do something specific in the weight realm that isn't my specialty, they want to do Olympic lifting, I don't have to be a specialist in that. I'm going to go grab a coach that specializes in that. And the dotFIT platform kind of does that, from a nutrition standpoint. I don't have to be an expert, but my client, that's something my client's going to need. And so I can leverage the resource that's there, the dotFIT platform, to help my client. And then this final piece, which is what people get fixated on, this final piece is that, okay, we've got this structure, we've got this organization, we're getting you the nutritional advice that you need. Now let's identify through the training and through your nutrition, what are the gaps? What are you missing? You're not getting enough omegas. You're not getting enough vitamins. You're not getting enough D3. You're not getting enough calcium. We'll find what the gaps are. And then there's a whole product line that whatever is appropriate, we can work on. But I think for me, it was like, here's a solution. And I'd been in business long enough at that point, almost a decade at that point when I started, that I understood the importance of what dotFIT brought to the table. And again, you combine that awareness with the talent that we had, and you combine that with the competitiveness that we groomed, and you're going to do big things, right? Because now you've got coaches that understand that there's very strong correlations that we've found as an organization. And you guys know this. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but for anybody who's listening, if you look at any club and you look at the percentage of clients so you got your member base, then you've got your active client base, right? And typically there's a very strong correlation. The higher percentage of your members that are participating in training with a coach, the higher your retention, the lower your cancellations, right? That's simple. Take that same thought process, apply it to just your client base. The higher percentage of your client base that have a dotFIT account set up, that have been activated and are actively engaging with their dotFIT account, the coach is using it and the client is using it, the higher retention you have of your clients. Those clients are more likely to reach their goals. They're more likely to refer. They're more likely to re-sign. And so there's this very strong correlation between use of the dotFIT program and platform. And I'm careful there I'm not saying product, because I think to me, that's the least of things, right?
Yeah.
It's the easy thing to fixate on because it's the physical, tangible, tactile thing. So people fixate on the product. But like, if you're activating your clients, they're engaging with the program, the coach is maximizing the value that is there on the platform, the client is engaging with the platform. Now people are reaching their goals. So again, if you're in this to help people and you want to help people reach their goals, as an operator, you're looking for a metric to watch. dotFIT account activation equals client success. The more clients you have as a percentage of your total member base, the better your retention. So, I mean, it's just, right. It's math.
Yeah. No, and we, obviously we're real appreciative of that. And I think it's pretty cool because if you don't know Donnie and you're just watching this for the first time, I don't think he was born yesterday. And obviously coming into a situation where he has experience, whether it's, from formal education from college as well as self-study. And obviously he did have to drink the Kool-Aid based on what the company was presenting and saying this is the direction. But again, if you know Donnie, if he doesn't agree, he's not going to be shy, which I appreciate. And I probably get into too much trouble. I'm like that as well. So I appreciate that it's a genuine thing as well. It's not just, hey, we had to do this thing. Because guess what? Like, it works. So that's the whole thing, is like, if you just do it, and the goal is to give people a solution for when they're in the club, when they're out of the club. And then like Donnie said, our job and our goal to run our business is to make sure you get results. Because if you don't get results, you're not coming back and you're not telling anybody about us. So that's all goes back to our goal.
And I look, and what Neil, what Neil has created there, and with you and with Kat and the whole team there. Again, you said it right. Like, it's not just, hey, blindly drink the Kool-Aid. There's a culture created of challenge. Let's sit in a room, right? One of the most impactful things of the Neil's Ranch experience is the moments where you've got these fitness-minded individuals coming from all different parts, all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different knowledge bases, right? Some are, self-taught, bootstrap, like, I got into this industry, I worked my way. Others are, I went to school and I got my kinesiology degree and my master's and I did my thesis. You've got all these people in the same room. And Neil welcomes, okay, challenge me on this. Let's go around. We do round table, right? And he goes around the room and everybody asks a question. Okay, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? And you get vibrant challenging of ideas, right? So we're not stagnant, right? So Neil's created a great culture where it's like, hey, challenge what we're doing, because that's how we're going to grow, right? What are you guys? Because he's going to say, like, look, I'm in an ivory tower. He gets to say, like, I'm in a castle, literally. I'm in a castle. You guys are on the front line. You're interacting with coaches and clients each day. What do you need? What are we missing? You tell me as a company how we can get better. And then we'll find a way to fit those solves. And if not, if we've thought about it and chose not to do it, Neil will be transparent in communicating, yes, that's come up before. Here's why we're not doing it. Or we're working on that. Here's the challenges in making that utopia a reality. And here's where people don't like the word compromise, but here's where we might have to compromise some things to make that make sense and to be actually executable. So at the end, when that product gets rolled out or this platform gets revised, it might not look like what you had in your head that you presented, but you'll understand why it had to change. And so I think, that's something that exists with you guys. And I think that's something that we all strive in whatever area of control, whatever our span of an organization is, it behooves us to create cultures like that where, yes, there are policies. Yes, there are ways we're going to do things. Yes, we're going to be very, I'll say forceful, right? I know for my leadership style, that's certainly it. I'm going to be very forceful about this is how I want it done. And when we're in public and when we're in group, we're going to be on the same page. But if ever we have a closed door meeting and we just kind of narrow down the number of people and we've hand selected who's going to be in the room, now is the time. Let's have vibrant discussions, right? And so I think you guys have done a great job of creating that there. And I think that openness to having those communications with the companies that you're partnered with, right, allows those companies to grow. And then we all get to benefit from the great minds who dotFIT has got their tentacles, wrapped around and with. We all get to benefit from that. dotFIT benefits from that, and the whole industry, we all benefit from it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Donnie, you got to take us home with this. I always like to ask this, but again, being able to watch her grow and especially excel in one of my favorite sports, which is wrestling. But tell us, Donnie, how it affects, your career in fitness and how that's rubbed off on your family, but especially with Taya, who, is this little rock star. And of course, I think we all cringed with her injury last year. And she looked like just a champ sitting there with her, arm broken. But yeah, you tell us about, but she's phenomenal. She's obviously grown up in UFC Gym as well. And then I thought it was so funny because, I just moved back to Southern California. I believe it or not, it's almost been a year now, but I was with Andrea after we were working together doing something with Golds, and I'd never seen Torrance yet. And we totally stopped into Torrance, and who's there but Donnie and Taya, and Taya's getting therapy and everything else. I'm like, finally, I can see you in person after seeing her on social media for a few years, But tell us more about that, though. How has your career influenced your family, and finish us off with some of that? I love hearing about the family.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was lucky. I got to do one of my buddies who found his way into the fitness business a couple years back. My buddy Paul Horn. I got a chance to do a podcast with him about 3 weeks ago, the Horn Strength and Conditioning podcast. And one of the questions he asked me on that was, what's been the biggest perk of working for UFC Gym? And I think that I thought about it for a second. I really didn't even need a second to think about it. It's been the training that Taya's gotten, right? So, I mean, again, she just turned 16 last week, right? So she started training at the gym when she was 7, when she started training at the gym. Taking Muay Thai at 7 years old. Around 8, she got into jiu-jitsu, right? She does jiu-jitsu. We're actually, jiu-jitsu schools are opening back up, and at a little bit later today, we're actually taking my 3-year-old son Joaquin to jiu-jitsu practice, and then Taya's got practice after that. But so she's still training. But so she does that, and then high school rolls around. There's not a high school jiu-jitsu team. She's like, what am I going to do? She's like, I'm going to go wrestle. And she took to that really well. And so, I mean, I look at what's been the biggest job perk for me. It's easily been her exposure to Muay Thai, to jiu-jitsu, to wrestling. And also, I've got to give credit, the girls who worked in the arm bar and the front desk when she was, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And a lot of them, they were in college and they were playing college sports. So they recently, graduated college or finished high school playing sports. They had her in the back on the Olympic platforms, teaching her with PVC pipe. So, I mean, she was learning how to lift. She's learning how to take care of herself. Like as a father of a daughter, you understand this. I mean, that's kind of one less thing I got to worry about. Like that girl can handle herself. Right.
Yeah.
And so again, she's,
well, hey, Donnie, plus how much do our kids want to listen to us anyway? Even though she's got dad that's very, very well versed in how to do a lot of these things, it still is different coming from somebody else than dad, right? Or mom, So I'm sorry, go ahead though.
Yeah, no, her being surrounded with coaches that she'll listen to has been a blessing, right? Because then I can always have a conversation like, hey, I'm struggling to get this concept through to her. Maybe if you could plant a seed. And again, now she's hearing the same thing from multiple different people. But yeah, so I mean, she's a rock star. She's got colleges looking at her for wrestling, as she's had colleges looking at her since she was a freshman. And so I'd be hard pressed if it's not something, if it's something that she wants to continue with, it'll definitely be an opportunity for her. Similarly, right, I think she'll continue with jiu-jitsu and we'll see where that goes. And again, like I said, and following in her footsteps, her little brother, Joaquin, he's 3, and Taya and Joaquin will both be at jiu-jitsu practice today. And I owe that to, she got exposed to that at UFC Gym. Right. So it's exciting. And it's definitely been an unanticipated perk, right? The other perk, right, is going to be in the roles that I've had doing consulting domestically and now internationally, doing global franchise operations, has been traveling, right? And so, we've got this gym opening up in Miami, our second location in Miami next week. And I'm going out to do a coach certification, which I love to do. And I'm glad that I'm, even in my new role, I'm still getting to lead up domestic coach certifications for the corp stores. But my wife's going to come out to Miami, right? So, I mean, there's definitely perks to working with an international company. My daughter's gotten a great experience. My son's getting a great experience. My wife gets to travel with me to go see some cool places. And yeah, man, like I said, two decades into this ride, who would have thought?
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, if you go back, I said in my interview, I need to do something while I figure out what I want to do. Turns out this was the thing.
Yeah. No, I love it. And you guys would laugh. The way Donnie and I actually even met, I used to live on the East Coast and pretty much handled a lot of dotFIT on the East Coast. And, Donnie was always out on the West Coast, and, I didn't get to work with him with UFC Gym. And then all of a sudden I was able to do a little bit of work together for UFC Gym as a franchise consultant. But the first time that I meet Donnie, we are both winding up to meet at Sean Patton's UFC Gym in Hendersonville.
Tennessee.
We don't know each other, and it's my ignorance was the problem. But I'm going in to teach dotFIT. Donnie's coming in to teach the actual coaches and help with Sean and give him, some guidance and, mentorship, with the UFC Gym brand. And I have no idea. I'm just clueless about, there's already a full system in place, and Sean is asking questions and I'm just shooting from the hip based on my experience. And Donnie's sitting there going, who is this guy? What an idiot, which, there's some truth to that. But we're sitting there going, what is going on? And then it wound up, we got a great amount of time to work together, especially with Mike Gray and Tony Riccardi and Vince, and a lot of fun people, that have all gone on and done other great things as well. So, and now getting to know Donnie for probably 4 years at least. So it's been a great time and really, really fun watching you grow within that organization as well, from going from being a fitness director, then over to the franchise side, then back over to the corporate side, now looking at international. I mean, man, it's really fun to watch, Donnie. It really is.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, one of the things that when we were texting back and forth, getting ready for this, and, just kind of anybody who's new and young in the industry, right? Just be open to opportunities, right? There's this very interesting balance, right? Some people will tell you, like, it can be a fault to say yes to an opportunity that you're not ready for. And there's some merit to that, right? If you take something you're not ready for, you fail at it, are you going to get another shot? I don't know. But, like, just constantly be preparing yourself for any potential eventuality. And, like I said, I went from fitness director, general manager, back to, to a regional manager, back to a coach, back to a trainer, back to a fitness director, like you said, franchise. Like, it's just anytime Adam or Mark or anybody has come to me and gone, hey, Donnie, do you want to do this? Yeah. Okay, let's do it. And then go work. Yeah. Go work like hell and figure out how to do it. Hey, you want to go work in computers and do our CRM? Yeah. Hey, you want to go do franchise consulting? Yeah. Hey, you want to go do this international operational thing? Yeah. Like, just say yes to things, but then, work hard. Like, don't say yes and then be lazy. Say yes, and then go work your ass off and figure out what you're doing, and then go make it whatever it needs to be.
Yeah. No, well said, my friend. Well said. Well, you guys, I really appreciate everybody. If you've had a chance watching this live, and again, we will keep this forever on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook channel as well. But Donnie, can't thank you enough. I know it's a real busy week, especially again, like we said, clubs opening up, and hopefully we can overcome this thing out there and get back to where we were and do what we all love doing,
For anybody out there, right? Again, especially domestic. So we opened up Miami on Tuesday. We opened up the Southern California, San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles County, Riverside County this past weekend. Hawaii, we're opening up this Friday. The 27th, we open up another gym in Miami. And then we're opening up NorCal July 1st. The last one that we don't really have a date yet on is New York. But, like, to your point, everything's opening back up. Moscow reopens on Tuesday. Australia reopened last weekend. Gyms are opening back up. It's a really exciting time.
Awesome. Well, again, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, man. You take care.
All right, Donnie. Talk to you soon. Bye now.